Hi everyone, Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thank you for joining me for this YouTube video. If you're unfamiliar with my work, I like to guide everyone to my website. It's a great hub of information. The website is themodernshaman.net. I am a seer and a shaman. And when I say seer, what that means is basically I am predominantly clairvoyant and I utilize my psychic connections to the non-physical world to help clients, one-on-one clients, as well as teaching classes on the sacred intuitive arts. Many of you have kind of sought out my online teaching modules. I teach many different sacred intuitive tools, I would say. And that is everything from the psychic gifts as well as shamanic energy work, being able to read energy, manipulate and mold and shift and shape energy, remote viewing, mediumship, animal communication, you name it, I teach it. I have a master's degree in education, and so I kind of connected that to my native roots and created that Sacred Intuitive Arts Academy. So if any of you guys are interested in kind of taking a step further from this free content, that's available on my website, as well as just getting connected to me for a personal session. That is my calling and my heart, to help and be of service to those that are truly seeking. So if that is you, I hope you connect with me. I would love to hear from you and work with you. I do these videos, I've done these videos on YouTube for years, and they were always a question and answer format. But then something interesting happened about 8 months or so ago. I just stopped getting questions. It was kind of like the energy died out, and there's so much information overload on YouTube and TikTok, just so many different avenues to find metaphysical and spiritual information. And when I first started in my career, there weren't a lot of shamans. Nobody really knew what that meant. It was kind of like out there and avant-garde. And now everyone's got their own astrologer and their own shaman, and they're doing their own practices, and it's very acceptable and accessible. So I noticed that people stopped sending in questions. So I was like, all right, Spirit, the energy for that has died down. So I released that. I stopped doing the question and answer videos. Many of you were like, what happened? Where did you go? Like, the questions are not coming in. The energy was not like pulling. And so I was not sharing in that way. I was still doing my work, but I wasn't doing these YouTube Q&A videos. Well, fast forward to my own personal journey, and I shared this last week in my video. I went to Peru for about a month this summer, and I had felt called there by Spirit. And when I was there, my intention for my time being there was to connect with aspects of myself that I needed to activate or remember. And so when I was there, I had these deep connections with aspects of myself and channeled those parts and kind of turned on that latent DNA within myself that was connected to those people groups and that land. And I came home and I'm still processing it. I'm still integrating a lot of that energy. And Spirit said loud and clear, you need to talk about this. You need to get online. You need to share the energy of this through your own vocal cords as an antenna, as a signal to those that are ready to receive. So I am here today sharing with that clear intention that Spirit would like to activate others in the same way that I have been activated and reminded of those aspects of myself and the coding that lies within our own DNA. And so one of the things I want to talk to you guys about today is that I have decided, so I'm going to say decided because it is a choice, but I also feel guided to lead a group of people, to take people back to Peru next summer. I'm thinking July. And so I'm kind of testing the waters today and offering this out there, seeing how many of you guys would be interested in joining me for a trip of remembering. In particular, going to a few locations. Cusco, seeing Sacsayhuaman, which is one of the ancient sites there, doing ceremony there. Going to Ollantaytambo, another sacred site there, and having ceremony there. And then Machu Picchu. And having ceremonies, having times of remembrance and reawakening within the body. So I'm looking to call in one of my fellow practitioners that does a lot of body work, breath work, yoga work, to essentially activate that latent DNA pulled from our epigenetics and shift that perspective that has been within us as our DNA, that quiet aspect of the DNA, but hasn't been called into active presence in our life yet. And when we go to these locations, the energy themselves in the stones that's present in those locations, the geolocations, the geology that's active in the literal stones, the memory that's stored in the water, those locations essentially will do the work. They will activate you because they store and they vibrate out energetically through all the memory that's stored within the stones and the water and the location itself. It begins to speak in its energetic language to you. So that happens anyway. When you couple that with a leader or guidance from your own spirit to sit in meditation, to set an intention to connect and to activate and recall the aspects of yourself, of your own DNA. Remember, 97% of our DNA, get a little techie or a little biological here for you, but 97% of our DNA is what was called junk DNA. Basically, that was the aspects of our DNA that are considered latent, that are ancestral coding. Okay, that's there, that's present within our body, our cellular and molecular functioning body. But the sequence of that DNA has yet to express. And through our perspective, through these awakening in certain locations and with certain intentions, we can essentially activate that code, which sounds all fancy, but essentially all it does is when we shift our perspective, okay, environmental perspective, the environmental impact on our genetics that is within us, because our parents, our genetic sequencing, this genetic soup that we have within us, right? It's 50% our mother, 50% our father, and then we have our grandmother, grandfather, their grandmother, their grandfather, We have all of this genetic material within us all the time. And what we choose to activate or call out from our quote unquote past lives or other aspects of ourselves, that coding within us literally can be activated by environmental factors. And those proteins within the cellular structure adhere to the gene. They shift the shape of the gene, and the shape of the DNA, the little sleeve on the DNA opens up, the RNA, which is kind of the replica of the DNA, gets pulled aside and created into a new genetic sequence, and it can be read and expressed in a new way. And so when we go through this physical process of being in an environment of remembering, an environment that activates energetically the perspective shift on our DNA. We are literally able to shift the DNA sequence, or the expression of that sequence. The expression is the way that the DNA is read, okay? Which means we have all this coding in us, but our personality, what we express out in our lives, the way, and it's not just physical, it's not just emotional personality, it's also the health and vitality of our body, our immune system, the color of our hair, the shape of our eyes, all of those aspects of ourself can be brought forward, shifted, and put into new sequence through those activations. So it's an incredibly powerful way to shift your life. Let me just say it like that. Traveling to an environment in which your latent DNA is calling you towards. So in this video, I realize I talk a little bit about epigenetics, but what I would love to invite you to is to listen to yourself to see if you feel called to do this Peru trip with me next July, or maybe you feel called to go somewhere else that your DNA is kind of recalling you to, or asking you to remember and integrate and activate. And if that's the case, listen to that. But I have been asked from my guidance to do this, to help others learn how to do this for themselves when they are at particular locations, in order for their highest vibrational capabilities, their highest potentiality through their own energetic and genetic makeup, to step into those highly active, multi-dimensional bodies that we as divine beings have access to, that we are. I was going to say that we are encased in, but we are way bigger than our skin. And really, we're just a field. We're not really a skin anyways. So if you feel called to that, I would love to work with you and help you learn this process of activating and integrating and being your highest potentiality for yourself. And that is an evolving being. It's not like you get there and you're on the mountaintop forever. It is ever evolutionary, just as much as we are eternal beings, eternal divine beings. So this video is a little different, like I said, than all my other ones, but that is my heart and my sharing with you all today, to see, to kind of take a poll of those that are interested in learning how to do this. And if you feel called to particular locations, because I would love to lead these groups. Yeah, and that's it. That's my sharing for today. Yeah, and so I'd love some feedback. I'm going to sign off here, and I will be back with you guys next week for another video. Mwah! Blessings.